What's trending? Presented by Feastbox, donating 10% of every order to Full of Hope, a charitable organization that feeds hungry families. In the grand scheme of things, sport has its place. And we know on a day like today, it's obviously not as important as other things. But we have a job to do, and we're going to do our job. We're going to discuss BYU football and where the Cougars stand after 2 games at LaVell Edwards Stadium. So, Jarom, when you look at what happened against Southern Utah on Saturday, a 41-16 win, a solid performance by the offense to a degree. Defense a little bit disappointed. They gave up 16 points, and I'm paraphrasing commentary from the coaches after the game. But in your opinion, was this result good enough pushing forward for BYU?
Yeah, called for 40-plus, wanted to see it. The defense gave up 10, and then it was 6 or 7 late or whatever. It's all good. Offensively, I liked what I saw from the pass game. That was great. 348 yards from Keaton Slovis, 22 of 32, 4 touchdowns. He had the rushing touchdown as well. Rating of 195. I'm never going to complain about 195 on 32 attempts. A 5-touchdown total day was really good. Here's Kalani Sitake after the game on Keaton Slovis.
Well, he looked comfortable. Obviously, he's got his 3rd rushing touchdown, so he doesn't mind running the ball now. But I think the key is we got to keep him up, because if we can keep him up and throwing the ball, he's really dangerous. And the interception came on a hit, so that's the goal. It's for us to keep him up and let him make the throws, and then find ways to balance it out with the run game.
We'll get to the run game in a moment, but that was good. And this was this was a BYU offense that we certainly saw break out more, which was great. You see the comparison, from they had more than 33 passing yards in the first game, but yeah, the yards per attempt were much better. The passing touchdown, obviously, some of our numbers are off on the game one. Don't worry about it. But it was a marked improvement, yes, which was what we wanted to see. The run game in a second, we'll get to that. But Keaton told you the following about the improvement after the game.
I don't know. I think you chalked up last week as just not being us. I think tonight and today what we saw was what we've been all year, all fall camp. Since I've been here, that's how we played. And it was nice to see it and show up. It was obviously frustrating last week. A lot of questions swirling around. And, we know who we are, and I'm glad that we showed it today and got to put it on film.
He's having a great time, Jarom. And his first 4-touchdown passing game since 2020. It's been a minute since he had a performance like that.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a good part. Well, special teams was good too. In fact, let's just go there now, and then we'll end with run game. So special teams, I really liked Ryan Rico, 64-yard punt. That's 360-plus on the year. Parker Kingston had a 41-yard kickoff return. Harrison Taggart blocked a punt. Marcus McKenzie continues to be unbelievable. I'm doing the film room with him today, by the way. You'll see that tomorrow.
Steve Tasker McKenzie.
Seriously, punt, cover, tackle inside the 5, and he recovered a fumble. I mean, this is really nice. And Kelly Pinga wasn't there. He was at his nephew's funeral, and so they did not have their coach, and so they did it for Kelly on this day, which was really special and personal. So that was good. I like the pass game. I like special teams. I got a real issue, and we all do, I think, with the run game right now.
Well, and
what is going on?
The head ball coach said as much. Yeah, these things were good, but the run game. Everything kept centering back on the phrase, but we got to figure out the run game.
It's a huge issue right now.
Yeah.
In fact, let's just go to that. Kalani Sitake on the run game.
Yeah, it's everybody doing their job, and that's the running back to the blocking, the line of scrimmage with the O-line, tight ends and the receivers. I was really pleased with the receivers blocking downfield. That's why we're going to spring some big plays. But we still need to improve on that. We need to find a way to run the ball and keep a defense on their heels.
All right, so I'm kind of, looking carefully through his words there, and I know that he wants to protect his guys, and he doesn't want to let too much frustration.
Doesn't want to call out individuals.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But the concerning thing there that I'm hearing in Kalani Sitake's commentary is that it's assignments, Jarom. It's not like, the guys are giving effort, but they're just blown assignments consistently. Like, guys are not blocking the right way. The schemes are not happening. Yeah. How they're designed, and that's problematic, right? Like, guys not knowing where to be and what to do in a given moment to get the run game going.
Yeah.
2 games in, that is cause for concern. For Coach Sitake, This isn't Jarom and Spencer sitting here in Studio B saying, "Oh,
the head
yeah,
ball coach.
we
Yeah.
are." This is the head coach.
It's super
that is
obvious.
visibly frustrated that assignments are not happening how they need to be happening up front.
Let me tell you the boldest version of what could happen based on what's gone the first 2 weeks. If BYU continues to run the ball ineffectively like this, they will not make a bowl game. It will not happen. There's no way BYU can just chuck it to 4 more wins, in my opinion. They have to be able to run the ball more effectively. Like BYU is not scratching, the run game like they should. They had 112 last week, and then this week you have 46 against an FCS team. Like, what is that? How does BYU not have 200 against SUU?
So 2 weeks in, they're averaging 79 yards on the ground.
It's bad. And
game.
we just showed you 2.8 yards per carry. The longest run is 21 yards. 3 of the 4 touchdowns have come from Keaton Slovis. Now, hey, you're scoring, that's great, but what's going on? What is going on with Aiden Robbins, by the way? 10 carries, 29 yards, a long of 10, which means his 9 other carries are for 19 yards. He has 8 carries in the first quarter. He has 2 in all other quarters. He did not have one after the first quarter. To me, that screams one of 2 things, one of the 2 eyes. It's either injury, which I don't think he's injured, or ineptitude. And obviously, Aaron Roderick is going to give the ball to someone that he thinks can carry it effectively. That was LJ Martin last week. LJ was more effective, had that 17-yard run where he, stiff-armed 3 guys. That was amazing. But then, the rest of it was tough for LJ. He had 5 carries for 10 yards after that. So no one could run the ball. In fact, regarding Aiden Robbins, who I think is really talented still, I'm not giving up on the dude quite yet. Kalani Sitake was asked why Aiden Robbins didn't get a carry after the first quarter.
I don't know. I don't know all the answers right now for who carried what. I just want to see the ball carried with more intensity and get more yards. I don't know. I have to watch the film, but we need somebody that can carry the ball and do it the right way. We need someone that can block for them and make sure we get more yards. That's what we got is not good enough. So it doesn't matter who the defense is. I think we're better than that. So we've got to figure it out. Whether it's Aiden that's running it or Dion or LJ. So we feel really good about all 3 of those guys, but we're not giving them a chance right now, and that's our job as coaches, to get the O-line, tight ends, and receivers blocking the right guys.
Again, you see just visibly frustrated.
Yeah.
And this after winning by 25 and, handling your business. Like, the game was never really in question once we got to halftime. I mean, BYU's up 24, up 27-3. Like, that was good. All of that was good, right? The passing game, to be able to build that type of lead, big explosive plays. We talked about, we need to see more explosive plays.
Yeah.
We got that in the pass game.
Yes.
But no explosive plays in the run game. Where's the big run? It hasn't happened in 2 games against Sam Houston and Southern Utah. Like, these are the 2 games where I thought, okay, we're going to see Aiden Robbins break one for 40+. Or Deion Smith break one for 40+. Or LJ, whoever.
5, the longest run is 21.
21 yards.
There was 1 rush of 10+ in that game.
So now the question is it more about the offensive line, or is it more about the running backs, or is it a combination of both?
It's symbiotic for sure. Like, if it's blocked a certain way, it's going to be run a certain way, probably. But what Tyler Algier did, and Tyler Algier is exceptional, was he would take whatever it was blocked for and add to it. And sometimes that, if it was blocked for 9,
how special he is in the NFL now, too.
Yes, 2 touchdowns yesterday was incredible. It's not good enough. And why do we think the BYU is going to be able to run against Cincinnati,
Arkansas,
Kansas, or Texas? How about Texas? In the next couple of weeks. Like, certainly I don't expect BYU to rush for less than 46 this week at Arkansas. But that is a possibility if you're doing it against Southern Utah. So certainly that is a space that BYU needs to attack. Third downs are not good either right now, 29%, 8 of 27. Part of that is because you're not running well, so you're 3rd and long. And that is tough. Also, why does BYU have another illegal touching call? It is as simple as one receiver making sure he is off the line of scrimmage because he is covered up, or the outside receiver stepping off the line, either or.
Yeah, you line up in the wrong spot, and all of a sudden you're an ineligible receiver downfield.
Yeah, and there's a lot of confusion on that. Hit me up on Twitter, I can explain it. But that's a simple, frustrating thing that happened on 3rd down, and it cost BYU a big play to Chase Roberts there.
Sure.
You can't have that when you're in Fayetteville this Saturday. Like, you can't have that stuff.
Sure.
So certainly BYU at 2-0. We expected these 2 wins, but they've got some room for improvement.
Some good and some bad. Good mostly coming in the pass game, centered on Keaton Slovis and Isaac Rex and Chase Roberts.
Isaac Rex was incredible. 112 yards, career high, tied Gordon Hudson with 22 touchdown catches. Amazing. That was great.
And he was
the 65-yarder.
Given a hard time about not scoring on the 65-yarder.
Tight ends aren't running past safeties, okay? That's not a thing.
In fact, during my interview with Keaton, he was like, "There, Isaac's right over there. Yeah, absolutely, I'm going to give him a hard time about not scoring. I would have broken the record, right, Isaac?"
Would have broken the record. All good. Okay, topic 2. Puka Nacua set the world on fire yesterday. 10 catches, 119 yards in his NFL debut with the Rams. Cooper Kupp out, Puka Nacua in.
Oh, baby.
I saw it all watching the Seahawks play LA. I saw every play. How much better was he than you thought he'd be?
I didn't think that Puka would necessarily be better than I know he's special. Like, we know this. Of all people, BYU fans, those that follow BYU football closely, we already know he is special. The thing that surprised me was actually how much he was targeted. 15 targets, 10 catches.
Amazing.
I'm just glad he had an opportunity to show how special of a player he is. And so much for catching defenses off guard now with Cooper Kupp out. Like, because Puka did what he did in week number 1, you could expect more double teams. Yeah,
you could expect him on your friend's fantasy team,
he's
too.
Probably, yes, touche. He's probably going to be matched up against an opponent's best defensive back now. Like, he is special. So it wasn't he was better than I think he is, but I was surprised at how much he was targeted and how many catches he had. Like 10 for 119.
It could have been more. He dropped like 2 that he could have had. Like, Puka was so good. He fought through getting smashed a couple times. He is going to get in the end zone a bunch. Like, he got all the targets that Cooper Kupp would have had. He got every single one.
Yeah, we thought that he might get like a half of them.
He was moving the chains, and this was one of the most emotional viewing experiences I've ever had, because I'm like, no! Good job, Puka. Gets to see I'm telling my kids, hey, that kid went to BYU. We know him. He's awesome. Like, I'm so happy for Puka. I'm bummed the Seahawks lost, but like, Puka was so good. He was so good. And that was one of the greatest games that a BYU receiver has had. I need to finish my research on this, but I'm pretty sure that's only the third 100-yard game from a BYU receiver, not a tight end.
It's incredible.
Receiver ever, because Austin Collie had 2, and now Puka has 1 in his first game. Austin was so good. I'll say it again. I think Puka Nacua has a really good chance to be the best receiver BYU's ever had in the NFL. Like, Austin was amazing. At some point in 4 or 5 years, Puka could, and maybe it's in the next year or two, if Puka, he's not going to continue this pace, but like, I think he's going to have more 100-yard games than you think, which brings us to the stat of the day.
Amazing.
It's the BYU Sports Nation stat of the day.
Puka Nacua in his 100-yard game, the first by a former Coug since 2010, was Austin Collie.
13 years ago.
By the way, all 3 of those happened in September. It's the only month that BYU has put up on. Rich Eisen.
I love this.
The Rams are 1-0. Nacua Matata.
Great tweet by Rich. Nacua Matata. Fantastic.
And
Hey, bookmark that one. How about Mason Dodd?
We have to bring this up. We have to bring it up.
Like, he got called out on social media. We're calling him out on BYU Sports.
We're not doing anything that hasn't already happened.
Okay, so just before the Rams played, Mason Dodd says this. I hate to be the only grown-up in the room, but Puka Nacua has no upside.
Really?
5th-round rookie wide receivers on bottom 5 teams don't move the needle.
Oh, he moved the needle.
10 catches and 119 yards later, and lighting the NFL world on fire as a rookie in his first game. I'd say there's some upside, Mason.
The former Washington Husky, who played in Seattle, goes to Seattle in his first game and has just a great game. I'm so happy for Puka. That was awesome.
The best story I heard about Puka yesterday came from a Seahawks beat reporter, okay? And I'm going to paraphrase here, who said Puka was chirping at Seahawks defensive backs the whole game. After he made one incredible catch, he said to the defender, keep your weak rear end on the sideline.
Except he didn't say rear end.
Stay over there.
Here's the thing. He was right.
The moment is not too big for Puka.
Awesome.
Just see Boise State and Baylor 2021 and any other number of big catches he made for BYU.
Yep.
our Monday mailbag. This is where you ask the question and we answer it on the show. This is becoming one of my favorite parts of the show because you have burning questions. We have a lot of the same questions. We like to answer them.
Yes, we do.
RJ Johnson on Facebook asks, are the running woes for BYU football on the running backs, the offensive line, or both? What I presented a moment ago. If BYU can't run on an FCS team, what does that mean for the next 10 Power 5 games?
It's a great question. I think that it's both. I think that the O-line needs to block with way more aggression and create holes and do what the play is written up to do.
Downhill running, however that happens. That's what Aiden Robbins needs.
Get Aiden Robbins going.
Downhill. Like downhill running attack. Whatever formation and scheme that is. Just that's what he needs. That's what Chris Brooks needed.
Yes.
Downhill.
Yeah.
Caleb Plew on X. Will Puka be in contention for Rookie of the Year if he gets as many targets as he did on Sunday? Meaning
no.
the rest of the season?
No, he will win Rookie of the Year if he gets 15 targets a game.
Yeah, like we want to talk about knee-jerk reaction and like after one game, like rash generalizations and overreactions. Puka Nacua is going to be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year.
He will be if he gets 15 targets. Now, he won't get 15 targets a game, but certainly...
What if he gets 10 a game?
He's going to be one of the top... I mean, I think at the end of the day, he's going to be one of the top 5 rookie receivers in the NFL by the end. Like, there were how many guys ahead of him? 21? Like, no, 19 drafted ahead of him. How about that? Man. Yeah, obviously he's pacing for something special, but when they get Cooper Kupp back, Cooper takes over a lot of those targets. Yeah. But... Tutu Atwell had 119 yards as well. He's a second-year guy, right? So they have a nice young core there, which I absolutely hate as a Seahawks fan.
Even if he has half the number of targets that he has on Sunday, on average for the rest of the season.
And he puts up 60 yards a game?
17 times 8 is 136. That would be 136 targets, okay? If he has...
And you have 65 catches?
Between 65 to 80 catches of those.
It's amazing.
136 targets.
No, great start.
He'd be the Rookie of the